With 4 matches remaining in World Cup qualifying for the Asian Confederation, who will emerge from the tightest group so far? At this stage, just 1 point separates 5 countries in Group C from automatic qualification or elimination. Hello and welcome to Football Now, here from the Al Bayt Stadium in Qatar. Qualification for the 2026 World Cup gets back underway this week, and all eyes will be on Asia. Australia, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Bahrain and China are all locked in an intense battle to try and secure the final automatic qualification spots behind runaway group leaders Japan. So let's take a look at the situation in Group C. At the bottom of the table is Bahrain, along with China, who are paying the price for a heavy 7-0 loss to Japan. Indonesia are in 3rd place, just ahead of Saudi Arabia on account of goals scored. Saudi Arabia and Australia were the expected challengers to Japan for 1st place in Group C. In contrast, both sides have only managed solitary wins against China so far. Following the underperformance in the first 2 matches, Australian manager Graham Arnold resigned from his post. Replacing him at the helm is ex-Socceroos defender Tony Popovic. We spoke to former teammate Tim Cahill about what he will bring to the side as they look to secure automatic qualification.
I think Australia have a big opportunity to qualify automatically. I think they've got a good enough squad, great manager in Popovic and the staff. I know him really well as a player, but also I know he's very disciplined. But I think they shouldn't look too far, and that's a good thing with Popper. I think he'll have them well drilled, and he'll understand how big the task is against Indonesia, so they have to get a result against Indonesia, really at home. They're a top team, Patrick Kluivert's first game, but I don't think they should think too far. I think they should just focus on that game, and then let's see how they go from there.
Indonesia were 133rd in FIFA's world rankings when the qualification campaign got underway, making them by far, on paper, the weakest team in the group. However, a strategy of naturalising European players with Indonesian heritage led to impressive results on the field, but was also the final nail in the coffin for manager Shin Tae-yong, who was pushed aside to make way for Dutch coach Patrick Kluivert.
They've made an incredibly brave decision to part ways with Shin Tae-yong at this point, because he has them on the cusp of qualifying, and to toy with that so close to the end when it's on the horizon seems in some way incredibly reckless, in some ways incredibly brave, because it's true that given the naturalisation program that they've had, that the team that they are now is not the team that Shin Tae-yong started with, and there's enormous pressure on them now to deliver, because to make a change like this, you are doing it to get results. So if there was pressure on them before, there's even greater pressure on them now, because if you don't qualify for the World Cup, Indonesian fans are going to let them know what they think about it.
Another manager who paid the price for poor results was big-name coach Roberto Mancini. He lost his job with Saudi Arabia, who have now returned to a familiar face to try and lead them back to the World Cup. Frenchman Hervé Renard was in charge back in 2022 when he masterminded their famous World Cup win over eventual champions Argentina right here in Qatar. So how important is it that Saudi qualify for this tournament ahead of hosting the 2034 edition?
I think so expectation-wise, they had a lot of pressure on the shoulders coming into this group. And I think this is where Hervé Renard will be very good for Saudi Arabia coming back in, because in the past he's typically focused on having a solid defence. And I think if he can really jump back to that and focusing on the defence more so than the attack, then that could elevate their play again. The problem is with all of that pressure, sometimes you can either strive and move forward, or it can knock you down because the pressure's too much. You can just really see the broader picture and the build up to 2034, obviously, as well as 2026. But gaining that qualification for this World Cup, it's very, very important.
Currently at 5th in the table, Bahrain dropped crucial points in the last international window. And although they sit bottom, China hold the advantage of having already played group leaders Japan twice. So can either of these teams make the leap into the automatic qualification spots, or is time running out for both Bahrain and China?
I think every nation aside from Japan has a window that they'll look back on and think, what if? For Bahrain, it was these last two games as well that they'll look back on and think, what if? Because, you know, they were going to take a draw against China. They were going to take a win against Australia. Imagine they have those extra 4 points on the board. China, they're the team that's won the most games, and yet they find themselves last in the group. Can they take that second spot? Can they even get into the top 4? I still think it's unlikely because they've still largely been unimpressive. As I said, I think every team has had a window that they've looked back on and think, what if we didn't let those points slip?
The race could not be tighter, and every point really does matter in Group C. So who do you think will make it out of the AFC World Cup qualifiers? Let us know using the hashtag #FootballNowAsianQualifying. That's all we've got time for though this week. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.